All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Dave Kennedy. I'm a hacker, but really I'm the author of the Social Engineer Toolkit. Fast Track, I'm on the Exploit development team, Exploit DB development team, the Backtrack development team. I just had a book released actually this week, Metasploit, the Penetration Tester's Guide. I'm a Director of Information Security for a Fortune 1000 company in Ohio, and exploit writer, penetration tester. I have a heavy exploitation, penetration testing background, which is where I come from, a lot of it. I spent 5 years in the Department of Defense working for the NSA. I was in the Marines. I did a couple of tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, mostly for cyber warfare and signals intelligence. And yeah. So what this talk's about? Well, originally it was about hacking a mature security program, and I'd already given that presentation a few times. And my rule of thumb is generally I only give a presentation twice before I redo something different. And so I would have been violating my rule if I wouldn't give this talk a third time. So I redid the entire thing, and really it's about making sense of security and kind of where we're at in security as a whole. And it's important to me because I can kind of see a lot of what's happening in the industry and what's actually occurring and the breaches that we're seeing and where the general lack of controls are coming into place and what we need to do in order to fix it. And so this is kind of where this presentation came from. So who here feels like they're secure, that they can handle a attack against hackers that can't break into their systems and that they're relatively comfortable and can sleep at night that hackers can't break into their systems? That's generally the reaction I see. So we're all in the same boat. We all don't feel 100% comfortable with our infrastructure, our security. We know that there's flaws in our armor, that hackers can break in. We may or may not be able to detect it, right? And so we're kind of at a state right now to where we're a little bit in flux. We don't really know. So why? Well, we aren't secure. We are scared, right, of these guys. So, anonymous in the news, they're going and breaking into companies, a lot of infrastructures. Where were we during WallSec? Well, that's where we were, right? Hiding, hoping it wasn't us. And as companies got breached, I think you kind of saw a poking of fun of companies that got hacked. For a little while, Sony was kind of a joke that they got breached. PBS was a joke that they got breached. And so we're all sitting there kind of poking fun, knowing that our security wasn't any better. And so instead of being united, we pray, please don't be next to being breached, right? And so why is that? Well, we have all this technology that we've invested into our information security program, right? We got appliances that protect against antivirus. We have sandboxing technologies. We have intrusion prevention systems. We got antivirus and HIPs. We got two-factor authentication. We got stateful packet inspection. We got all this technology that's designed to stop hackers. We have consultants, right? Consultants protect us. We have certifications that teach us. And we have compliance that's trying to regulate us. Anybody notice the one in there? Never mind. And we have risk management, and we have risk formulas, and we have a lot of money to spend.
Really?
Well, at least I do. I don't know about you guys. So why? Why are we getting attacked a lot? So in order to answer it, we need to understand the kind of the past, present, and future of where security's at. And kind of go a little bit deep into where we're at. And so you look at security, it started off maybe 25 years ago. I think I just killed one of my slides, but security kind of started off like this. There's a guy in a basement hacking away at certain things, a little bit of experimenting, trying to figure out what's going on, and kind of skyrocketed from that. And really, got mainstreamed by these guys. I don't know why I put Vanilla Ice in there, but I want to kind of bring them back, so I just threw them in there real quick. It has really nothing to do with the slide at all. But it really started off with a bunch of nerds in the basement, right? I happen to be one of them. And so maybe 25 years ago, and so a breed of hackers were born. You had, Kevin Mitnick. You had the 2600 series. You had the Call of the Dead Cows. You had this, young group of hackers coming out that were really trying to revolutionize the industry. And they didn't really know what they were doing at the time, but they were really breeding what we see today as information security. And there really was no formalized security, information security industry then. There was nothing. And so these guys born, technology advanced, so did hackers. And a new era was born, the security industry. A whole brand new set of thought when it comes to protecting our infrastructure because technology has progressed to a point where we need to protect it. And so if you look at all these other fields that have progressed, like sales or HR or these different ones, they've been around for hundreds of years, right? Security itself has been formalized maybe 10. So we're still relatively new when it comes to it, right? So let's flash forward. Look at the present. We have a lot of companies getting breached significantly, and I'll show you some breach statistics that should be pretty interesting to show you at the different levels that we're seeing. And then you have these hacker groups. You have LawSec, you have Anonymous, you have these different factions that Adrian, I'm sure, is well more versed on it than I am at these. And we're seeing a significant amount of breaches occurring, a lot of disclosures, a lot of information being published online to the public, a lot of good stuff. And so, to understand hacking, let's take a look at the evolution of hacking. When everything started coming out, it started off with social engineering, right? And so you had hackers that would call people up on the phone, or you'd have somebody that would impersonate somebody else and try to gain information. And that was really the low-tech hacking type stuff that was out there before anything was really information-based on technology. And so, you had Kevin Mitnick and the guys out there that really started the social engineering front. And then it slowly progressed to the network. So we started getting more technologically savvy. We had computers connecting to each other. We had the internet. And hackers started focusing on that. Well, then we created the firewall. The firewall significantly dropped that. So the evolution occurred to operating systems. Hackers started hacking Windows, right? So Windows has been a big front. Well, with Windows, we had antivirus, we had HIPS, we had secure coding practices, and argumentatively, we still see a significant number of attacks, but they're a lot less than they were before. So then we moved to web applications, the Web.2.0 bang. So we had all these web applications come out, all of our data now sitting online, credit card data, our bank information, everything you could possibly imagine. And predominantly our entire businesses run off of web applications, right? Well, we started getting smart with that. We had security injected into our software development lifecycle. We had code reviews. We had penetration tests performed on these things. We have web application firewalls. And so it's traditionally becoming harder to hack the web applications. So they moved to client-side attacks. That's us. And so you look at the third-party applications that are installed in our computers. We have Adobe, we have Java, we have Word, we have all of these different things that everybody has. So hackers started targeting that. And interesting enough, last year at DEF CON, and I mention this usually in a lot of my talks, but last year at DEF CON, they actually had a party for people that had Adobe 0 days. So there's enough people to have a party to go to a place that had Adobe 0 days, enough undisclosed bugs within Adobe. So, client-side attacks have been predominantly where it's been at right now. But again, Adobe in 2 or 3 years, hopefully, get a lot better. It's going to be significantly harder to attack them. Hopefully Java gets better and we don't have the 23 security vulnerabilities released each month with them. Hopefully it's going to continuously and progressively get better to where clients aren't a subject. And so who knows what the next attack vector is going to be, right? It could be the cloud. Everybody's talking about the cloud, and that's where we're going to be housing a lot of our data. That's potentially where it's at. I mean, the cloud to me is like this. You're taking a lot of your data, and you're throwing it out to somebody you don't trust or don't know, and you're putting all of your sensitive data into an infrastructure that you don't support. You don't know these people any better than a person off of the street, and that's where all of our data is going to be residing in. And I just wanted to put a nice little blurb out for terms and conditions for a very popular cloud provider that you guys would find it interesting. This is exactly where we're putting all of our data in. And I'll just read the snippet right here. It says, so-and-so, its subsidiaries, and its licensors do not warrant that the content is accurate, reliable, or correct, that the service will meet your needs or requirements, that the service will be able to, at any particular time or location, uninterrupted or secure, that any defects or errors will be corrected, or that the service is free of viruses or other harmful components, any content downloaded or otherwise obtained through the use of the service is downloadable at your own risk, and you would be solely responsible for any damages to your computer system or loss of data that results from such downloads. So they're exposing themselves to no risk whatsoever of where you're putting your data at. So if they have a rogue employee that steals a hard drive, or you're sharing an infrastructure that has an insecurity in it, they get exposed and your data gets compromised, even though it's not your fault, you're 100% liable for it, and there goes your data. So I'm going to show a demo. This is the tool that I wrote. It's called the Social Engineer Toolkit. And usually I can throw it in there. As a penetration tester, I started off basically trying to always attack systems, right? Go in, find the latest and greatest exploit. Try to do a browser-side exploit. Try to gain access to employees or an infrastructure. And I found that a lot of times it's unreliable. It takes a lot of research to find out what a company's software base is going to be, what version of Adobe they're running. Are they running Windows 7 versus Windows XP, or IE 8 versus IE 7, and that changes the game of each exploit drastically. And so what you've actually kind of seen is the evolution of attacks in that evolution cycle has really started to mature again back to social engineering, which is a really big front of attack right now. And reason being is, now not only are we coupled with the ability to con and social engineer people, but we have technology to back it up. So you're seeing a lot of attacks occur, specifically on the social engineer level. If you looked at, RSA? RSA, was RSA, right? That had the social engineer attack, where it was a spear phishing attack. The person opened up the email, even though they grabbed it out of their junk folder. It was the Adobe Zero Day that ended up compromising them. But making things look believable. One of my favorite things that I always talk about doing, I do it to my organization on a regular basis as part of our social engineering attacks on a quarterly basis, is I'll sit there and I'll go on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is ripe for the picking for new employees of my organization. And so I look for new people hired to my company. Those guys are oblivious to who you are, anything about the company, the processes, the procedures, anything like it. So you catch them during the day, you spoof your phone number, so you're coming from an internal company number, and you say, hey, I'm a VP of sales, or blah, blah, blah. And then the best ones are the help desk, because the help desks in most companies are like rotating doors. They come in, they're there for 6 months, they leave, new people are always in, and they always have elevated permissions, right? Generally the easiest to social engineer. And so I'll call up the help desk or somebody in the help desk, and I'll call them direct versus the help desk line. And I'll say, hey, I'm a VP in sales. Listen, man, I'm trying to go to this website, and this Java pop-up comes up, and I hit run, but the page looks really messed up, and it's a $3 million proposal I have on the table, and if I don't get this, it's going to be really, it's going to be a big hit for my sales force. Is there any way they can help me out? And just as a social engineer, I did one thing there that most people catch, just by hearing the conversation, but it's actually called anchoring in social engineering. So what I did was I basically came out saying I'm a VP, I'm someone of importance to this person, and I said I have a problem. Well, as a human being, and especially as someone of authority, I'm going to try to help that person in his problem. And so I planted my anchor, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my anchor, which is, can you help me? That person's going to be more than willing to help you, and specifically in that scenario, and it's extremely difficult to protect against it. So he's going to go to whatever website you want him to. He's going to click on whatever you want him to. And then all of a sudden, things work. You're like, oh, hey, I really appreciate it. I don't know what you did, but you fixed it. I'm going to go tell your boss. And you hang up, right? And then that person's compromised. And so the tool that I wrote is called the Social Engineer Toolkit. And it's for security professionals to test how well they would do against social engineering. And it relies heavily off of the human element. And so in this attack vector I'm going to show you, I'm going to launch the tool. And this is in Backtrack 5. And it's free. And it's got a web interface too, a web GUI. So if you're command line challenged, you can definitely use the web GUI as well. But we're going to go to the website attacks, and SET has a ton of stuff built into it. You can do spear phishing attacks. The website attacks are my personal favorite. Infectious media generator, so you can create a USB or CD and just throw them out somewhere and hope people plug it in and it compromises them. The Tinsy stuff we'll talk about in a little bit. SMS spoofing attacks. It also set up a fake wireless access point. And then anybody that goes to like Google or anything like that, it redirects you to the attacker's machine and then tries to exploit them and attack them. And a bunch of other stuff as well. But we'll do the website attack vector. And in this one, we're going to do the Java applet attack. And interesting enough with Java applets, this isn't an exploit. It's how Java is designed to run. It leverages a trust model for Java applets to actually execute and run. So regardless of what level they're patched up to, it's going to work 100%. Regardless if they're on Windows or Linux or OS X or Mac, it's going to attack each one of them because Java is platform independent. And regardless of what patch level they're running or what version of the operating system, Windows 7, fully patched, whatever, it doesn't make a difference. It's not a bug in Java. And funny enough, I'll show you something in a second. But so we're going to go ahead and click the website cloner. And what this will do is it'll go out to any website you want, completely clone the website, rewrite it, put all the bad stuff in there, set up a fake web server, do all the configurations for you, and then you're ready to go and do your attack. And so when you go to the web cloner, we'll just clone Gmail as an example. Clone it. And then you have a list here of what you want as a payload. And a payload to an attacker is, once I've actually compromised the system, what do I get on that system when I get it back? So, whatever exploit it is, or if I wanted to add an admin account or whatever, right? And so it hooks into Metasploit very well. So you can do a interpreter shell if you're familiar with that, or you're comfortable with that. But one thing I've been writing, I'll talk about the interactive shell in a second. I completely wrote a custom interactive command shell that has a ton of options to it, which we'll demo. But one thing I want to mention is the RADI HTTP tunneling payload. And one of the developers on my team developed RADI. And what it is it injects into Internet Explorer or Firefox and piggybacks the proxy settings and communicates purely over HTTP and HTTPS. And so if you're doing any type of egress filtering, packet inspection, a protocol inspection, you're not going to see it because it's completely transparent over an HTTP tunnel. So all the communications back and forth are going to be 100% HTTP legitimate. So we're going to do the set interactive shell. And uniquely enough with the set interactive shell, every time that it's compiled, it completely obfuscates and rewrites everything so that it circumvents and evades antivirus. So you don't have to really worry about that. And then what it also does too is it incorporates AES 256 encryption per each connection through what's called a randomized cipher key exchange. So basically when you drop the payload onto the system, it negotiates a brand new key pair just specific to that attack victim, and everything back and forth is 256 AES encrypted, so it can't be eavesdropped into. And so we're on the victim machine. This is a Windows 7. It may be fully patched or not. I don't remember last time I patched it, but it could be. It doesn't make a difference. And it's running latest version of Java. I did just update that. And so to the attacker or to the victim, you say, hey, I can't get to, saleslogistics.com, which is a fake website I just made up in my head, so if it really is one, I apologize. But I can't get to that, can you go to it? And, the hacker registers a fake domain name. He goes to it and everything looks legitimate. And I'm just going to use my IP address in this demo. And he goes to it, and he gets an exact replica, whatever looks like of Gmail. And then this pops up, the secure Java applet. And it says, publisher unknown, which I'll talk about that in a second. And what's funny about this is even if the user didn't click this, he's like, oh, I don't know what this is, I'm going to cancel it. I'm going to hit cancel. Cancel's going to stop it. So I'm going to go try to log in, right? Oh, it didn't work. That's weird. Well, so it did stop it. But what's supposed to happen, I think it's a weird connection with what's going on with the internet, but it wouldn't even lie to do it. It would just keep having a pop-up saying, it would just keep popping up the Java applet, so you couldn't even close his browser. So he's got to hit run, or else it doesn't work, and I think it's just has to do with my internet. And so we'll go ahead and click run. And I don't know if you notice what happened, and since the internet is kind of funky here, but as soon as I hit run, it redirected the victim back to the legitimate site, so he thinks he's at Gmail. So the victim never even knew that he was at a bad spot, right? Whereas on the opposite side, on my attacker machine, I fully compromised the system. Here's a shell here. And set supports is multi-threaded, so basically if you have 50 shells coming in at the same time, you'll see all 50 listed here. So, and it also works for Linux and OS X as well, so you can have payloads for all the operating systems out there, so it doesn't make a difference if it's Windows or whatever. And so you drop into the shell, and this is the set interactive shell. And basically it's a whole bunch of commands that you can leverage here. I won't go into every single one, but I'll show you a couple. And here's a command shell, and so here I can type in ipconfig or whatever, right? And so I'm running on this person's machine. He has no idea. It's circumvented antivirus and all that stuff. And here's the cool part. Watch this. So say I want, the traditional effort that a hacker does when he gets onto a system is he adds a local admin, right? Or he tries to further piggyback and do post-exploitation. Well, in Windows 7, they incorporated something called UAC, User Access Control. And UAC is that annoying pop-up that you get, are you sure you want to continue, are you sure you want to use administrative level rights? And so what UAC was designed to do was take your user account and basically run it under the context of a very limited user. Reason being is you don't want users shooting themselves in the foot with the antivirus 2011 stuff or the viruses that are out there to minimize exposure. And so December of last year, I was working with Kevin Mitnick, and he calls me up and he's like, listen, I'm on a pen test right now. And he's like, I got this company, they're running Windows 7 fully patched with UAC enabled. I got my interpreter shell back, but I can't fully compromise because when UAC is enabled. I'm like, all right, well, give me a couple days and I'll figure out a way around it. And so I do net user, and I try to add a user account here. I get access is denied. UAC did its job, right? It stopped me from being able to add that user account. However, we'll go ahead and get around that here in a second. And so what I ended up discovering with some research was the way UAC actually works is, if you notice like processes like export.exe or system processes, right? They run under the context of that user account, but they never trip UAC. You wouldn't want export.exe popping up a thing saying I'm trying to access certain resource within your system, right? And so the way Microsoft designed UAC is they created what's called a Trusted Publisher Certificate, and they signed certain processes with that Trusted Publisher Certificate, which essentially makes you UAC safe. So it no longer trips UAC. Well, interesting enough, your user account is explored.exe is running under the context of your user account. So I can actually inject into that process and execute some commands underneath it, since it is my user account, without tripping UAC, and then spawn a shell basically that's UAC safe, and I don't have to worry about UAC anymore. And so if you look over here, I drop back out, and I have a second shell right here saying UAC safe. So now I've circumvented user access control. And I've successfully compromised the machine with full administrative rights. And some other fun tricks that you can do with this, like for example, keystroke logging. So you can see everything that they typed. And what's fun, my favorite one is like the lock workstation. So, oh, hey, I'm on my computer. Oh, I just got logged out. Oh, okay. Let's go ahead and type my password back in. So you can do harvesting of credentials and things like that. And then one of my other favorite ones is the reverse SSH tunneling. And so when you compromise a victim on their internal network, like for example, you're on the internet, you compromise a victim that you social engineered, it shoots out a payload from their system out to the internet to me, right? So now I'm on their computer, I've traversed their firewalls, I've traversed NAT and all that stuff because they're connecting to me on the internet. It's a reverse connection. So the problem with that, though, is I don't have access to all ports, right? I can't go directly to that victim's machine because you have a firewall in place, you have NAT, you have all this protection around in place. So in order to get around that, I implemented something called the reverse SSH tunneling into the social engineer toolkit. And what it does is it originates a connection from the victim's machine and tunnels any port that you want to over SSH back to me as the attacker. So again, traverses their network, whatever port I want to, and connects back to me. And so why it's important is, watch this. Let me start. Let me change my password real quick because I don't want you guys seeing it. No offense. All right. So I'm going to type in SSH tunnel, and I'm going to have it connect back to me on port 22. You can do whatever port you want to. And then we're going to tunnel port 3389 with username of root, password of hackme on port 3389. Now, if you notice here, I don't have anything listening on 3389, right? Nothing. I'm going to execute this command. And now I got something listening on 3389. I've tunneled remote desktop from the victim's machine back through the internet to me. And now what I can do is this. Now I got a full graphical user desktop to their internal network if I need it. And again, you can upload, download files. Persistence, it'll actually inject a process and a service into the operating system, so it'll eventually call back, so you have something there forever. You can kill stuff, things like that. There's a bunch of cool things. So that was set. Again, there's a lot more features. I just wanted to kind of cover my favorite one, which one of my good ones. And so if you look at breach statistics, this is from privacyrights.org. Actually, this is a slide that I should have taken out. I'm sorry. This is from 2009 to 2010. You look at security conferences, they reported a record number of attendees. So, security is increasing. Security staff decreasing in recession, then increased. Estimated $1 billion spent on Windows Vista and Windows 7. So security itself has gotten bigger, right? Well, if you look at privacyrights.org, they have some great statistics. It's one of my favorite sites to check out, and it's continuously updated. It shows you every year the public disclosures of breaches. And so if you go to 2008, we had 354 354 reported public data breaches. RBS WorldPay is one of them. I think it was like 1.1 million social security numbers that were exposed. And in 2009, there was reported 252 reported data breaches. So we got better, right? So went from 352 to 252. A dip. Well, unfortunately, they were like the largest breaches in history, the largest amount of PCI, HIPAA, any type of record-related data you would consider sensitive breaches ever in the history of keeping track of it. Well, in 2010, we spent 34% more in our budgets, and we had 594 reported public data breaches, so over double of that of last year. So it got much worse. And so if you look at breach statistics, here's what we're seeing so far. We're not even done with 2011. We've already overextended what we've already seen from a breach statistic from 2010. So we're getting worse, much, much, much worse. Look at our spend. Our spend for security has gone up, right? And we have, let me notice a statistic here. We spend more, we get breached more. All right. So we buy products. So we buy products to protect us, right? I want to show you products. Here's something that I wrote as just a fun, 5-minute type thing, just to show the effectiveness of the stuff that we're using right now. And here's Python. Python's a programming language, just as anything else. It's my favorite of choice. But this is, ignore the comment code here. This is 15 lines of Python. Okay, 15 lines. And what it does is it's a reverse command shell. So someone runs it, it spawns a command prompt, reverses it out of the network back to me as the attacker. Does anyone want to guess how many antivirus signatures pick this up?
0?
Sounds about right. So here's virus total, and that's 0 out of the 43 antivirus scanners that picked it up. So a full backdoor into someone's system wasn't being detected by any of the antivirus signatures out there. It just shows you, if I want to write anything custom, period, it's going to get around anything that you have technology-wise. Anything. And this literally took me 3 to 5 minutes to write that code. And I cleaned it up since then. I put some comment code in it, but hashing through it took me 3 to 5 minutes. And I got around 43 of the virus scanners out there. And the way that I wrote it is that I wrote it so that it was multi-platform. So this right here works on Linux, it works on OS X, and it works on Windows. So it works on all the platforms, and it took me 3 to 5 minutes to bypass everything out there. So it just kind of shows you where we're at. And I can show you, well, we need to see that much reverse shell. So that's the 13 lines. I kind of went through that. And Python itself is not a compiled programming language. It's a scripting language. However, you can do what's called byte compiling to Python and convert it to an executable, and that's what I did. And that exe didn't get caught by anything. So that's an actual exe that you would double-click or somehow get it onto the victim's machine. So those have failed us. We have consultants, and if anybody here's a consultant that's not against you, there's a lot of great ones out there. But really, the security industry is really tailored towards a product and consulting-driven type industry. We rely heavily off of consultants, experts in the industry. We rely heavily off of product, that's supposed to protect us against all of these attacks in the industry. That's where the industry's gone. We spend millions of dollars on consulting work. We spend millions of dollars on technology. So somehow they know the business better than us and how to secure it. And that's the model that we've made for ourselves in security. And I was a consultant for 5 years, so I'm one of those guys, right? Not anymore. And we spend and spend and spend because that's what we're told will fix our problem. If we buy the latest and greatest appliance, it's going to fix our problem. If we buy a DLP, it's going to stop all information leaking our company, right? Or if we buy an intrusion prevention system, it's going to block all hackers from attacking our systems. If we buy a web application firewall, it's going to stop me from being able to breach into systems. This stuff doesn't stop me. It's not going to stop him. These hackers. It might stop her. So why? Why are we seeing these? Why are we currently the state we're at right now? And so if you look at it from a holistic perspective, we aren't balanced. Security is really a balance. Compliance, vendors, and products make up the majority of our security program. And if you look at compliance as a whole, companies spend over 40% on compliance-driven security, which is from Forrester, whereas compliance makes up roughly 14% of what data we consider sensitive in our company. So we're spending 40% of our security budget on compliance, which makes up this, right? Compliance is the big hog. We have some risk management in there, and security is really a small portion of it. And so if you look at this balance, compliance isn't real security. Compliance, and you'll see I'm not against compliance in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I think it's absolutely beneficial to most companies to make sure that you're doing what you're doing. But it can't be what your security program is based off of. There's no way. And so, again, I'm not saying that compliance is bad. I love compliance. It's awesome. The way that we've been able to leverage it in our company is being able to promote awareness around security through compliance. So you can leverage it as the, hey, we have to do this for compliance, or hey, we have to do this because of this or this, and you build a foundational security program, and compliance kind of fits right into those little sockets, right? If you do security from the ground up from the right way, you might have to make 1 or 2 tweaks to compliance. The rest of it kind of just falls right into place. And so the spend has to come down. And so the future. We kind of went through the past, the present, and the future, right? And so really the future is up to us. You know, it could be this. I hope it's not. But we really need to invest in our people and do some hard work versus purchasing the latest and greatest technology and the latest and greatest software out there in order to think that we're secure or safe. Because technology isn't going to do it for us. Now, again, don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of great technology out there if applied right. If you look at DLP solutions, I think DLP solutions are phenomenal. I think they should be brought in after your data classification, information classification program has been matured for at least 3 to 4 years. Taking an appliance and dropping it into your infrastructure, you're basically having an overglorified regex interceptor for credit card data and social security numbers. Versus actually building a program around having data stewards handle all of your information, having classifications around those, and then actually protecting that data at the endpoints there. I mean, that's really where you start getting the value from these things. Technology is only supposed to be designed to help automate manual tasks and make things better, right? It's not there to put a stopgap into things to protect our infrastructure and protect us against attackers, because that's not what it's going to do. And so, impact change. The basics of security is secure your critical assets that make your company money, right? And that's where I think we lose it a bit. I think we look at security as we need to protect everything and secure everything in our infrastructure. That's never going to happen. But what I can tell you is that 90% of security professionals don't understand how their company makes money. We're secluded in our own little areas. We're putting down our little policies around whole disk encryption and everything else, and we don't even understand how our company truly makes money or really what the risk level is. We just know that it's good because someone on a podcast or somebody that's better than us somehow or in some way, shape, or form said that we should do it. And so I'll challenge that and say, go back to how your company makes money and secure those assets first, and then start worrying about the rest of it, because most of us aren't even in the position to do that. Throw away risk formulas, risk equations. Ignore the fear mongering, and just secure your stuff. Take out complexity. Take out those 6-year information security plans, because those are just about as good as anything else that the Big Five will give you. Those big visionary documents that tell you how to build your information security program over 6 years. Has anybody ever implemented those? Just curious. I haven't seen one. And again, find out what makes your company money. Protect that. Simple. Invest in people, not in the technology. And let's get back to reality. That's a good one. Thanks. Appreciate it.